Hey, what's going on, Raider Nation? I am excited to talk about Fernando Mendoza today. Um, the finals, the championship was yesterday against Miami, and what a game! First off, that was such an awesome and fun game to watch. But more importantly, I got to see exactly what I wanted to see from Fernando Mendoza, and I got to see, what I think all of us needed to see is what happens when Fernando is not just beating a team by multiple points. What happens when things aren't easy for him. Um, I tweeted about this before the game or X'd about it. I don't know what the word or the term is now on X, but I wanted to see some adversity from him. What happens when things aren't going his way? How is he going to respond? And I was impressed. First let's talk about his numbers, because I think right now you have some people that are they're hating on Mendoza, because he didn't have, a perfect game, or because he didn't throw for all of these touchdown passes. One thing I do got to say is I love his offensive weapons. He has a strong offensive line, but I think what we saw during this game is one, the offensive line of Indiana was completely outmatched by Miami. I mean, you had two really strong edge rushers there, including Bain Jr. And then you had a strong, I don't know who the player was, but number 99, defensive tackle for Miami. He was very strong as well. So I think this is one of the first times that we saw Miami outmatch, the Indiana offense. In that way, I felt like for the most part, Indiana has done a good job of keeping Mendoza clean, and Mendoza has done a good job of getting rid of the ball when he needed to. But other places I felt that Indiana was a bit outmatched was the receivers. Miami's secondary has done really well, and you saw that, against Ohio State and you know Ole Miss. So I got to give credit to Miami. They played violent. They were definitely gonna hit Mendoza, and while I didn't love it, it's football, right? And you saw that, hit to Mendoza's chin, gave him a bloody mouth, and he was still kind of doing his thing. But I mean, that's what you have to do sometimes when you're playing against the best college football player, in college, the Heisman Trophy winner, and a quarterback like that. You have to be able to rattle him. And we got to see what happens when Fernando Mendoza gets rattled. And to me, these are the biggest things that stand out. So he only completed about 60% of his passes. He threw for 186 yards, zero touchdowns, and zero interceptions. Completed 16 of 27 passes, which is not anywhere near where he was, against Oregon or Alabama. As we look, I think he had 8 touchdown passes and 5 total incompletions. He had 11 incompletions, this game. So things weren't going the way that Mendoza was used to. But that's exactly what we wanted to see, especially on such a big stage like this. We wanted to see how he was going to perform. And I do got to say, the fourth quarter is really what I was like, damn, okay, he's the guy. Because we saw it with Geno Smith, and I'll be honest, I saw this a lot with Derek Carr. Saw this a lot with Minshew. You see this a lot with, Geno Smith. We saw it this year. And I'll even use, C.J. Stroud with the Texans. Big moments sometimes, force players to do more than they should. They try to play hero ball. They try to fit that ball in where they shouldn't fit it in. They try to make a throw when all they got to do is throw it away and survive, and just pressure in general. And we saw that with Geno Smith this year. We saw it a lot with Derek Carr. And again, it's not bashing Derek Carr, but if you look at from the time he was drafted, 2014, to the time he was a Raider, he was top 2 in the league in turnovers. And sometimes in high pressure situations, you make bad decisions. And we saw that play out a lot, during Derek Carr's career. We saw that play a lot this year with Geno Smith. He led the league in interceptions. And just recently we saw that with, it was C.J. Stroud in the playoffs. The amount of times he turned the ball over, saw that with Josh Allen. Just sometimes you hold on to the ball too long, you try to do too much, and you dig your own team in a hole. And I think that is one thing that I can say about Mendoza that he didn't do this game was he wasn't digging himself in a hole. You actually saw Carson Beck, at the end there throw an interception, and that's going to happen. But what we saw from Mendoza is despite, the throws, and this is just me being honest, I'm not an Indiana fan. I wanted Indiana to win. But there were several passes and throws where I felt like the refs could have easily called a holding or a pass interference because Miami was playing physical and they were letting the game be played. Which, by the way, NFL referees, you need to watch that shit because that's what you need to do because I still think the Bills should be, playing this next weekend because there was a pass that Josh Allen did on the final drive that it was a clear just as clear as the other two calls that they called on the Bills defense in the end zone that should have been, pass interference in the end zone, and it would have been game over there and no overtime. But back to Mendoza, we didn't see those mistakes from him. He was sacked 3 times. He was hit, bloodied up more than ever before. The passes, and the timing was thrown off by the coverage of these defensive backs, and it was the perfect recipe for success. And this is why I'm such a believer that the team needs to be firing on all aspects. Indiana's defense held strong in that first half. They did awesome. Miami's offense really broke through in the second half. And then you saw the special teams touchdown on that blocked punt. I think that actually, won the game. It changed the entire trajectory of the game, the situational setup for Miami as well. And then that Fernando Mendoza run and that 12-yard touchdown run on 4th down. That was to me the big thing. They're only up by 3, 17-14, and it's 4th and 5, and you're in the red zone. And one of the coolest stats I saw was the last 2 years. I think Mendoza has thrown 36 or 39 red zone touchdown passes with no interceptions over the last 2 years. That's big. But what we saw from Mendoza there is he took some shots in the end zone. Obviously, his players didn't catch it, but neither did Miami. There was no turnover there. And then when it came down for him to, try to run it, they only needed 4 or 5 yards, and he got hit pretty good, but he kept fighting. And that dive across the goal line, when he just gets hit, from behind. And again, Miami was so physical. It was cool to see that because at the end of the day, when Mendoza comes in as a rookie, he's going to face adversity. He's going to face adversity throughout his career. He's going to face teams and players that are physical where you're unable to win the game in the way that you're normally winning games or have won games because the other team is getting paid to. And the scheme is right. And the matchups are right. And they're making it hard for you on offense and as a quarterback. And that's when you have to dig in deep to where it's there's ways that it's just as humans that we want to portray ourselves, that we want to be. And then there's ways that when shit's happening, shit's on fire, and it's like time to really break into what we are instinctually. Sometimes that's where turnovers come from, right? We panic, we don't really, do everything right, and then we make mistakes. Well, Mendoza showed that he's capable of taking care of the ball, of at least, even though his offense wasn't dominating and just, treating the other defense like a hot knife through butter like it was, the first 2 games. He still kept his team, in the game. Some of those back shoulder throws, they weren't as accurate as, some of the ones from the previous games, but he put them in places where only number 80, Bex, I think is his name, could catch them. And again, that's all credit to the Miami defense. These guys were covering. It was like wide on rice. I mean, it was great coverage. And not only was the coverage pretty solid, somewhat illegal in my opinion, but also the pass rush was solid. So this was the perfect storm for Mendoza to come and throw interceptions. This was it. But that wasn't happening. Good things happened. They still ended up scoring 27 points. Again, 7 of those points were from special teams, but also, 20 points is a solid out there for that offense. So even though things didn't go well, I thought Mendoza responded really well to all that adversity. Again, didn't play a perfect game. He completed less than 60% of his passes, but none of his passes were caught by the opposing team. I think he fumbled once. I think he recovered. Somebody might have recovered, but it's just one of those situations where on your worst game, and Mendoza is going to have bad games as an NFL player. All NFL quarterbacks do. But in his worst game that he played in the playoffs happened to be in the national championship game. And at his worst, he still made a legendary and epic, I'll call it a game-winning touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, that was incredible of him to do that. I think that closed out the game, and the way he did it was awesome. He just sacrificed his body, and he said after the game that he'll die for his teammates, and he swore at the press conference, "Let's fucking go!" I love that, and it's cool to kind of see that side of Mendoza, but just the way he played it at his worst, he still gave his team an opportunity to win. And he put his team in a position to win, not just with that touchdown, but also that last field goal that they had. So to me, that's huge. It tells me everything that I need to know about Mendoza in general. When you go over his, 3 games, that he played, it's cool to see. He had 9 touchdowns, 0 turnovers in 3 games. That's exactly, what you want. If you look at his season, it was phenomenal. I know this is a weak quarterback class, but don't let that make you think that Mendoza is weak as a prospect. Last year, 2025, everybody was talking about how the 2026 draft was going to be loaded with quarterbacks. Drew Alar, who was a first-round draft pick, is a second or third prospect now. Last year he might have been picked in the first. Now he is going to get picked in the second or third, maybe later. And I know there's Archie Manning and all these names that are coming up, but we don't know what's going to happen next year in the draft. Everyone's like, well, Mendoza wouldn't even be picked in the first round. I don't buy it. When you look at just the history of quarterbacks, successful quarterbacks, especially recent ones, Mendoza has the size. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. He's got legs. He showed us that he can move if needed, which is awesome. Doesn't mean he's a Patrick Mahomes, but we don't need a Patrick Mahomes. We just need someone that has enough awareness where he can escape and still make decent throws, and I think that's what Mendoza does. He's a leader. He's got grit. He's got the cerebral side of the game down, and that's what's exciting to me. So I think he's a first-round pick no matter, over the last 5 draft classes and the next one upcoming. He's still a first-rounder. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, this person would have been better, this person would have been better, because at the end of the day, they got to play, and the situation has to be right. And right now, I feel like more than ever, the Raiders are more prepared to have a first-round pick as a quarterback. I know our offensive line is getting a lot of shit online, but when I look at J.B. Che, Jackson Powers Johnson, Colton Miller is still there, Rogers. We have a lot of young pieces, Glaze even, along the offensive line that I think are going to be solid when we get them a real coach, and not just Brennan, the coach's son. When we get them a true coach who can teach, who has the experience, I think great things are going to happen from this offensive line. And I also think we should, bring on more offensive linemen via free agency. That's very important. And if trades happen, that's something that we can talk about as well down the line. So, but I do think that picking up an offensive tackle is going to be important at some point next year. And even another guard, I think, would be great. But I also think we have the guys, you know, in on the roster and on the team that could potentially be starters for the next few years. But we need them to develop. We need them to have the opportunity to play as well. As far as weapons go, you know, when you have Brock Bowers, I'm a big Michael Mayer fan. I think those two tight ends are going to be solid if they both stay healthy. I love Genty. I think Genty's going to have a big year next year. Again, it comes back to what can our offensive line do, what can we bring, and who the play caller is going to be. I would love to have Mike McDaniel as the head coach. Let me be one of the first people that says Mike McDaniel or Kubiak from Seattle. Any of those two guys are like my ideal targets there, are who I would love. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with anyone because I think we're doing things right. We are slow to hire. We're interviewing, a lot of people, and we're taking our time, even though other teams are jumping, to make a hire, which is fine. That's kind of their prerogative. But I think we're going about it in a different way this year as a franchise. And I can't wait to see what we do. But I think we're ready for a young quarterback. And then after that, it's time to move forward and proceed with how we're going to build this team and make it happen. One of the things that I'm really excited about myself, and I talked about this, so here's the thing that I just got to make clear to everybody so everybody kind of understands. I'm talking a lot about the potential of trading Maxx Crosby this offseason. Number one, it's not because I want him gone. It's not because I don't like Maxx Crosby, but it's because I really feel strongly that there are going to be several teams that are going to be calling us, making us offers for Maxx Crosby, because there are teams out there that are desperate for a playoff run or a Super Bowl run, and they know that as a franchise, we're drafting number one, and there are things that our roster needs before we can truly say we're a Super Bowl contender. I recently made a mock draft over on the Pro Football, the PFSN, the mock draft generator that they have. And the Cowboys offered me picks number 12 and number 20 for Maxx Crosby. And I took it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take it. I actually got, I think it was picks number 12, number 20, and 112 that a lot of responses, almost 200 responses. A lot of people weren't happy, but some people saw what I was seeing. And my whole thing is, and this is kind of my idea, again, I love Maxx Crosby. I'm not trying to change him because I don't think we need him, but I think other teams need him to make that Super Bowl run or to, make the playoffs. And in return, we could, really focus on building our team and building a team that can support a number one overall draft pick that's going to be a quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. And I think if that's the route that we go to, that's what we have to invest in. We have to invest in the offense. For the longest time, and this is again my opinion, our offense has been very inconsistent. Whether it was when Derek Carr was a quarterback, we'd have one weekend where he looked like an MVP, looked like he was going to be great. And then the next weekend, it was like, who the hell is this guy? Get him off my team. We kind of saw it with Geno Smith, except for him, it was more get off my team all year. But at the end of the day, what we really need to look at is how can we invest the most, into our offense? How can we invest more into our quarterback that we want to succeed, and how can we take advantage of the rookie contracts? I realize losing Maxx Crosby would be, it would be hard for fans in general. It would be hard for myself as well. Got his jersey up there signed. But I think at the end of the day, what's going to be harder for us is if we draft a quarterback and we're unable to give him what he needs to succeed before his rookie contract expires. And I think that's what we need to focus on, because at the end of the day, even with Maxx Crosby, and this isn't his fault, this is the team's fault. And we're still a bottom third defense when it comes to points per game. We're a bottom half or third when it comes to total yards allowed, and we're not even in the top 10 in sacks or top 15 in sacks as a team. So there's a lot of things that are still not happening even though we have an elite player, and it's not his fault. What's happening is our offense isn't good. Our offense can't stay on the field to give our defense breaks. We can't extend drives. We can't get first downs. We can't score touchdowns. We have too many turnovers. When you start to have that, you change the game around situationally, where you're not playing with a lead. You're not giving your defense opportunities to get those sacks, late in games. Or I even look at Genty. Like, could you imagine if things were flipped a little bit and Genty actually had opportunities to run the ball more? Because at this time we're just trying to waste time and wear out the other team because we're playing with a lead. And then when the other team has the ball, they have to pass. They're in shotgun, and you have our edges pinning their ears back and just going, right at the quarterback. So those are things that aren't happening and haven't been happening often and consistently with Maxx Crosby. If he's on a contending team, his sacks probably double. And that's just me being honest, because those teams play with leads. So I think people are seeing the Broncos and they're seeing the Texans, and they're like, hey, we're a Maxx Crosby away from playing and at that level. And I think the Cowboys are a team, and because Jerry Jones is as old as he is, they might be desperate because they have a bomb-ass offense, but they need something else on the defensive side. I get they traded Marco Parsons, and there's a lot of reasons, for that, right? But this could be something that happens. And on a recent mock draft, and I'll kind of post it, somewhere up here so y'all can see it. But I went Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 overall pick. I went with Caleb Lomu with the 12th pick, but being fully honest, Mekhi Lemon could be our 12th pick fairly easy. I don't know if Carnell Tate will be there, but when you draft a quarterback number 1 and you already have a Brock Bowers and a Genty, you might as well get him another number 1 wide receiver, which is something that we lack right now. I do like Trey Tucker. I like Jack Beck. I like Dante Thornton as well. I think Dante is actually going to surprise us as he develops. He needs to develop, but having another solid number 1 wide receiver and Mekhi Lemon, he reminds me of the Amon St. Brown from the Lions. I think he could be that kind of player, and to have a player like him on the team along with a Brock Bowers and an Ashton Genty, it's going to look like the Lions, right? With their people, Laporta, and their Williams and Amon St. Brown, and then they got their 2 running backs there. I think that's solid. For pick number 20, I pick Mekhi Lemon on this one, but Caleb Lomu could still be there. Offensive tackle for Miami is a possibility. I know Alabama has one right there. But to me, what we do if we happen to trade Maxx Crosby with those first 3 picks in the top 20, you get your quarterback. You secure his success by adding a weapon, number 1 receiver, and another offensive tackle, and it's the protection. And really, to me, that's where it's super important. That if we were to make a move like that to move on from Maxx Crosby, it's not because we don't love him. It's not because we don't need him, but it's because the situation that we're in a franchise isn't going to put Maxx in the best position for him to one day win a Super Bowl or win a championship. And it's going to take us a couple years to build, because we have to be realistic. The Broncos right now are the top dog in the division. Now, I think they're going to have a fallback year next year, because 11 other games were 1-score games or lower, and they won the most, I think ever, 11 games. That's like tied the record for most 1-game wins. And I think for us, we'll have an opportunity to compete, but we still need some, elite guys at key positions. And I know we're taking them away we're taking an elite player at an edge position away, but we need to really focus on making sure that we put all of our time and all of our energy in making sure that Mendoza succeeds, that he gets what he needs around him so our offense can put up points. And then from there, you got a lot of cap space where you can start filling holes on defense. KC Chiazin over with I think the Texans, or maybe he's with the Patriots, number 44. I'm probably saying his name wrong. He used to be with us. He's getting sacks. He's making plays. We can find sacks via free agency. That's not going to be an issue, right? But we have to find a way to get this team to be ready to compete every year for the playoffs, every year for a championship. And sometimes that takes loading up on draft picks. Having 3 first-round draft picks and having the ability to get them right can expedite your growth as a franchise and can make you competitive right away when you get it wrong. And the Raiders did this with Khalil Mack. We got picks wrong. It set us back. Set us back years. Why? Because 3 first rounders in 1 year is like fast forwarding 3 years into one area, and this could be huge for us. And this is why it's something that I'm very open to, that I would absolutely look at. At the end of the day, would I love to find a way to keep Maxx and to still add a number one wide receiver for Fernando Mendoza and another elite offensive tackle for him? Absolutely. I just don't see it as a viable path right now via free agency, where I do believe it's viable through the draft. And then again, I talk about rookie deals and the flexibility that gives us to invest money at high level positions. We can do that on the defensive side of the ball once we have our offense and the key positions, tackle, wide receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback, all tied with blue chip prospects on rookie contracts. That's going to give us so much flexibility to do something big, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. That's what I hope we do, mainly because I think now it's time to focus on the future and the now. And if we go with Fernando Mendoza as the number one pick, that's the future, that's the now, and that's the main player that we have to find out how can we make him successful and what's going to increase the odds of that. And to me, again, it's loading up on elite young talent. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But I'm just really excited about this offseason for the Raiders. I realize it's a new coach and we've already been here, done that. But again, just everything about it. Second year with our new ownership, second year with our GM, which I'm really excited about. He gets to be a part of the entire process. We have the number one overall pick, which to me is a huge deal. It's a big deal. And I think we're going places. I realize I'm optimistic. I'll always be optimistic, but I'm just excited for the opportunity that the Raiders have this offseason, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. And I think for the first time in a long time, we're going to have a true franchise quarterback. So I'm excited, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza's game yesterday, just Fernando Mendoza in general. Let me know your thoughts on potentially collecting more assets if we trade Maxx Crosby, and really just anything in general that you want to see. I love talking to you guys, whether it's on X, whether it's on YouTube. I just, it's fun. So appreciate you guys, and thanks for watching.